Namaste and greetings. I, Naina Sharma, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI, #Web Policy Talk. We are gathered today for the condolence meeting in memoriam remembering Shri Manoj Misra ji, 1954 to 2023. Convener, Yamuna Jiye Abhiyaan, Campaign for a Living Yamuna River, a civil society consortium, and former Indian Forest Service officer. We humbly offer our prayers for the soul that has departed, and we seek to honor Manojji's inspiring work by continuing to learn from their invaluable contributions. This discussion is organized by the IMPRI Center for Environment, Climate Change, and Sustainable Development, CECCSD. I welcome all of you to this enlightening deliberation, and thank you for tuning into this discussion. Now let me introduce the esteemed gathering for remembering Shri Manoj ji. Our chair for the session is Mr. K.J. Joy ji, founding member and senior fellow, Society for Promoting Participative Ecosystem Management, Pune. We welcome you, sir. The distinguished panelists for the session are Ms. Mallika Bhanot ji, volunteer with Ganga Ahvaan, a citizens forum based in Uttarkashi, Uttarakhand. Ms. NIVEDITA KHANDEKAR ji, independent journalist, writer, and researcher. Mr. VR Raman ji, national convener, Public Health Resource Network. Mr. Ranjan K Panda ji, Waterman of Odisha, convener, Water Initiatives Odisha and Combat Climate Change Network, India. Mr. Leo F. Saldanha ji, founding trustee and coordinator, Environment Support Group, ESG, Bengaluru. Mr. Gopal Krishna ji, Toxics Watch Alliance. Mr. Lokendra Thakkar ji, coordinator, State Knowledge Center on Climate Change, officer in charge, State Wetland Authority, principal, EIES, EPCO, Department of Environment, Government of Madhya Pradesh. Ms. Bhavreen Kandhari ji, founder, Warrior Moms and air quality enthusiast. Mr. Suresh Babu SV ji, director, Rivers, Wetlands and Water Policy, WWF India. Mr. Himanshu Thakkar ji, coordinator, South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers and People, SANDRP. Mr. Siddharth Agarwal ji, founder, Veditam India Foundation and convener, India Rivers Forum, and Ms. Ipsita Pati ji, principal correspondent, Times of India. We extend a warm welcome to each and everyone and express our sincere gratitude for your presence and participation in this gathering. We are fortunate to have, for special remarks, Ms. Shraddha Bakshi ji, sister of the Honorable Manoj Misra ji. Welcome to all. We look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. Before starting the program, we will play a short audio-video clip prepared by Mr. Siddharth Agarwal ji in remembrance of Manoj Misra ji.
मालूम है हम कहाँ हैं, हमको मालूम है हम कहाँ जाना चाहते हैं, और हमको रास्ता नहीं मालूम। नदी ने सिर्फ ये कहा है मुझे जीने दो।
Now, from our institute, I invite Ms. Simi Mehta, CEO, IMPRI.
Thank you, Nana, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening for this meeting in memoriam of Shri Manoj Misra ji. And I will just take a brief moment to tell you all that we are releasing an ebook which will be freely available to everyone, and also a lecture which Shri Misra gave at our platform, which was recently concluded on a training program on public policy, which was exceptional. And Shri Manoj Misra ji graced us with his presence and wisdom in several of other web policy talks at IMPRI, where he shed light on the critical issues surrounding River Yamuna and also the urgent need for its restoration. In the pursuit to understand the complexities of this ecosystem, the participants, including myself and everyone else who had the privilege of knowing him, that he led a life of unwavering dedication and an exceptional commitment to environmental conservation. So this ebook consists of, is a testament to his remarkable contributions to the environmental conservation and the profound impact on the preservation of River Yamuna. It is with great honor and deep respect that I present this book as a homage to the extraordinary achievements of an extraordinary individual. Thank you very much. Also, we have released the lecture that Mr. Misra gave on environment and public policy at our platform, and this will also be freely available to everyone for the times to come. Thank you all. I hand it over to Mr. KJ Joy for the rest of the proceedings.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Simi Mehta. First of all, I take this opportunity. I mean, it's not only me personally, but I think the various collectives many of us are part of, and of which Manoj was an integral part, the India River Forum, the Water Conference Forum, and also some of the family members who have been able to join today to remember, to celebrate the work and the person he was. So we take this opportunity to thank IMPRI, especially Dr. Simi Mehta, Dr. Arjun Kumar, and the entire team for organizing this memorial in honor of Manoj. I think a few days back, India River Forum did organize an in-person meeting in Delhi. It was very well attended. I was also there. And that gave me an opportunity to listen to a whole lot of people I've not met in my life who are talking about Manoj, both as a person and as an environmental activist. And that also gave me an opportunity to meet many of his near and dear ones. I met his mother, I met his wife, I met his daughter, and many, his sisters. And I think for me, meeting them in a way was a chance to, what I call is a bit of a catharsis for me, because the whole thing was pent up in me ever since we knew that Manoj is not well, and especially after on June 4th, when we came to know that he's no more. So from that point of view, I feel that even today's meeting, for many of us gathered here, and I can see a whole lot of his friends as panelists today, just to remember and him and his work. And I'm sure it will be, in a way, quite a bit of a liberating experience for all of us just to share and be part of this collective remembrance of Manoj. I think, I don't remember the exact date when I met Manoj, but I think it was somewhere around 2011-12, first time I had an opportunity to listen to him when he talked about rivers. I was quite astonished the way he compared the entire river systems on planet to the human body, saying that, the rivers are the arteries of our planet. And any type of blockages in the arteries can lead to quite detrimental effects. The same way, if you are going to block, if you are going to, what you call regulate rivers in the form of structures, dams, and other type of thing, the rivers are also going to have a natural. I mean, this is the way he put it, was a very telling to me to understand the whole role of rivers that play this. So I knew this person is different, because though I have been in the water sector for the last maybe 30 or more than 30 years, I never heard this type of a passionate plea from him. Ever since then, I have remained connected. And I think in 2014, when India River Forum was set up, and he was one of the persons who was instrumental in setting it up. I've been part of that initiative as part of the India River Weeks, and later as the core group member. And in 2016, the Forum for Policy Dialogue Water Conflicts in India, in short, Watercon Forum, also took him as a steering committee member. We took him into the forum steering committee basically to bring his, the passion for rivers into the Water Conflicts Forum. Otherwise, we have been talking generally about water and related conflicts. In a way, river was not very much privileged within our discourse and things. So we thought he will bring that into our discourse, and indeed he brought in, and also his ability for outreach, campaign, and other type of things. So we thought he would provide that liveliness within the conflict forum. And I would say that he did it very well. I mean, he was the one who led many of our campaigns, whether it was related to when the whole government tried to dilute environment impact assessment processes, or even, which I would like to talk a little detail later on, the whole Ken-Betua interlinking project, etc., etc. And for me personally, he was a person to go to. And I'm sure most of us will share this about him. In moments of doubt, and also when you don't know what type of a position one need to take on some of the politically sensitive issues in the water sector, I think he was the one who is to guide us, guide me personally. And his was a very sober voice. I mean, he was never shrill. I don't think in any of the meetings he has been aggressively putting his point of view or other things, but he used to be very gentle, very persuasive too. I think these are the qualities probably in the activist, spectrum of things. Probably we are all very much shrill in our articulations and things. I think this is something which we'll miss with the passing away of Manoj. I think my last meeting physically with him was in March, end of March in 23. When I was in Bhopal for another meeting, he came to meet me. He was in his farm. He's very passionate about talking about his farm. He came, we spent a couple of hours. And he also invited me saying that, Joy, next time you're in Bhopal, you should come. I promised, yes. I know now, probably that will never take place. I just want to develop on the next 5-6 minutes a few things which I feel is important. I don't think it's anything, I mean, everybody, all of us know about it, but with which I was personally connected with Manoj's, engagement. We all know, and is very well documented, talked about, in a way, Manoj has become, another name for Yamuna. I mean, Manoj, yeah, when you talk about Yamuna and Yamuna's rejuvenation, I think everybody, the first name comes is Manoj. Through the Yamuna Jiye Abhiyaan, the type of work he had done ever since 2010-11, which in a way led to the 2015 verdict that was instrumental in making the Nirmal Yamuna rejuvenation plan. And we also know that a few years back when Art of Living actually did that world gathering in the floodplains of Yamuna, it was he who took up the matter with the NGT, which in a way forced the NGT to set up a committee. And because of the recommendation of that, the NGT even fined the Art of Living to the tune of about 5 crores, just to damage. So that way, I would say that Yamuna, Manoj's contribution to the protection, rejuvenation of Yamuna is quite well known. The point I'm trying to make is that his contribution, his engagement with the rivers is not just limited to, Yamuna alone. I can give you innumerable examples with which he was, connected in a very life manner. For example, Ganga. He was in the forefront. I'm sure Mallika would bring up some of those issues when she's going to talk about it. He was in the forefront of people who are opposing the type of hydropower development which was coming up in the Ganga basin to some extent. And also after the disastrous or the whole tragic which took place around Kedarnath in 2013, the then Additional Secretary of Ministry of Environment and Forest, Shashi Shekhar. In fact, I would like to mention that Shashi Shekhar ji is his batchmate in the Indian Forest Service. They started the work together. And later, I think Shashi Shekhar ji shifted to the Indian Administrative Service. But they both of them worked together on many of the critical issues. Shashi Shekhar ji was going to join today as a panelist, but unfortunately has to travel today. So he informed me that he won't be able to join today. So he shared with me a couple of things which even I didn't know. So as the secretary, I mean, part of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Shashi Shekhar ji was supposed to provide, give an affidavit to the Supreme Court, because they had appointed a committee headed by Ravi Chopra to look at the whole linkage between hydropower projects and the type of tragedy which unfolded in Kedarnath. And Shashi Shekhar ji was telling me that it was because of the inputs which was provided by Manoj that finally the Supreme Court came up with a what you call a subordinate legislation, which in fact protected this, and which is a very landmark. I think in the obituary by Sri Ramesh, Jairam Ramesh ji also was mentioned the contribution made by Manoj. In fact, even the inputs he has provided in drafting the first, what we call the river zoning type of a thing, river regulation zone, which was there, but probably didn't see the light of the day even till today. We can also go to other type of basins where Manoj was very clearly, he was very well connected with the city, which I am, because we are fighting a battle against, this whole riverfront development. Now the new imagination, the urban spaces is to, the whole aesthetics of river is to have concretization or channelizing the river and type of thing. There are a lot of activists, friends in Pune who are fighting that battle, and he was very much connected with those struggles. He was connected with our work of the Water Conference Forum in the Mahanadi, where the whole intersectoral conflicts and interstate conflicts have been unfolding. He was very well connected with that. In fact, he was also connected with the Chalakudi River, issues, whether it's a Chalakudi River Protection Committee, the whole issue of upstream, downstream, the whole hydropower projects in the upstream, which is not releasing too much of downstream flows and things. So there are a whole lot of river systems which I think Manoj was very well connected. So he's not only limited to Yamuna, but I think he's more of other river systems too. There are about 4 things which I like to mention where one could see Manoj in a much more minor details. One was about 3-4 years back when the government brought in this whole thing to dilute environment impact assessment in the country. It's already weak, but they wanted to further weaken it and things. Manoj went so systematically, and he brought out a document which the Water Conference Forum took it for a much larger campaign, saying demystifying EIA. Though I have followed to some extent and things, but while reading, working with Manoj on that, so quite an interesting experience. If anybody wants to read that document, we can share that with you. This is a document which I felt that which reaches everybody. He doesn't use any big words. He doesn't use jargons. He doesn't use cliched stuff, but he's much more direct and it touches you. I thought that was a major contribution he made. Second, when I think the Ken Betwa issue, which came up about, just a couple of years back when the cabinet subcommittee gave the approval just before the UP elections to go with the Ken Betwa project and things. So as we all know, he was a non-critique of broadly the interlinking project in the country, and more specifically the Ken Betwa, because that was the first project which was being on the. So interestingly, we wrote a letter. In fact, we meaning Manoj wrote a letter to the Prime Minister on behalf of the Water Conference Forum, saying that he said this project which the cabinet subcommittee has approved is illegal, and he has quoted from the government documents to show this. So. And he said that it is a lose-lose proposition if you're going to talk about the Bundelkhand water security issues. And he also proved that Bundelkhand is a net loser if this project comes through and things. And one of the major arguments he brought in was also the type of impact it is going to have the Panna National Park. He also believed that there's a better, cheaper, faster, more sustainable alternative which is available to provide water security to the people of Bundelkhand, And he was quite, interested to follow up the work of Professor Brij Gopalji and Dinesh Marotiaji. They had written a paper in EPW, and we also used. And Manoj put together a very interesting set of institutions and people to develop this alternative. Unfortunately, we could not take it to its, logical conclusion. The another opportunity which I had to very closely work with him was about the effort to draft a national water policy in 2019 and 20. In fact, Manoj made a presentation, and since I was also part of that committee, we had a lot of close interactions, and we had insisted Manoj to make a presentation on the rivers, because the committee felt that we should have an explicit section on the protection and the rejuvenation of rivers. And he made an excellent presentation before the committee, and that was followed by a note he presented, or he sent to us, along with another friend of ours, SP Ravi from Kerala. So I think that note clearly articulates the type of worldview he has around rivers and what one needs to do to protect, to govern, rivers in a much more sustainably and participatory manner. I just want to quote a couple of sentences from his articulation, which he made. He believed in the existential rights of rivers. He held that healthy rivers are essential for water security of the country. For him, protection and restoration of rivers is a constitutional duty of citizens as well as of the state. He was against destructive interventions on the rivers. This included not only dams, but also channelization and straightening of river meanders and concretization and artificial beautification of urban stretches in the name of riverfront development. One of his crucial suggestions to the committee was to make river basins as the units of developmental planning, so that the integrity of basins are kept in mind during the planning itself. He wanted to bring in decommissioning of dams and structures on the river as part of the draft policy, as he believed that human-made structures have a finite life. He advocated demand management, efficiency, and equity in water use, so that there could be a moratorium on new projects on the rivers. He argued for legislative support for river rejuvenation in the form of a comprehensive framework river basin rejuvenation law. And this, according to him, shall ensure restoration of flows, security of groundwater, and revival of traditional community institutions, and the restoration and protection of floodplains. We all know that, basically also argued that the new national water policy should make a paradigm shift in the management of rivers, with the focus being changed from river development to river conservation and rejuvenation. Environmental flow or ecological flow was quite close to his heart and things. So, in fact, I'm happy to tell this group that most of his suggestions have been included in the draft national water policy. So, just to sum it up, so what I've seen, what has appealed to me, Manoj, both as a person and as an environmental activist, advocate, campaigner, is that he is a person who combines three things. He was a researcher. I mean, researcher not in the formal academic sense of doing research for the sake of research, but I would say more in the mode of either as a citizen science or people science, where basically he was a seeker. So before he took a position on something, I think he tried to understand the whole issues at hand. He was an activist together, and practitioner, activist, worked with communities, activist groups, etc., etc. And third, he also had a good reach to the policy realms. And I think Dr. Simi Mehta did give us some glimpse of that in her remarks and things. So I think, all these three dimensions have been rolled into one person, that was Manoj. And this is something which I think all of us are going to miss in a person who can combine these various things in the environment sector. I'm sure some of you might have also seen his book called Wildlife at 50. I mean, I think it was brought in maybe last year or the year before, where he brought in people who are concerned about these things to, when the Wildlife Act, did the 50 years, he brought in a very interesting book, and that was been well discussed and debated. At the moment, he was in the midst of bringing out another book on water. I think probably it's called Water Tales, or Probably it's a tentative title which he had given, and he had brought in people from the water sector to contribute. And he made it sure that it's not an academic exercise. He said that whatever we write should come from our heart and our own experiential way of writing. And many of us, I'm sure today, part of this meeting too, have contributed to that. He could not take it to its logical conclusion. And I think this is also another unfinished task, which some of his friends, some of us are discussed with the family members, how to bring it out when the Water Act completes 50 years next year. So this is something which many of us are trying to put together and bring it out as this. There are many more things one can share. I'm, looking forward to listening to all of you panelists today, sharing different aspects of his life as well as work, and also the type of implications for policies, whether for water, whether for rivers, whether for forests, and the type of nature or the rest of nature, elements of nature, which he was so well connected with. I think it's for all of us together here. Institutionally, one can say that India River Forum will be there, Water Conference Forum will be there, and I think his family members will be keen. But I think it's a larger body of us who are meeting on him for us to take his legacy forward. And I think one of the tasks is that how do we do this as we go along in things. So probably this meeting will also throw some light on that. And there were some ideas which came up after the Delhi meeting. So we should consolidate all that and see that we take completely the unfinished tasks which he had, and as well as take the legacy forward. So looking forward to the rest of the panelists, and thank you very much.
So there is no flow of the participants. So, but Joy sir, you can decide who can go first. So you are on mute.
I know. No, Dr. Arjunji, so I was saying that since you have the list, maybe you could just call out the names. I know most of the people, but probably you can just hold that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, since Raman sir is here, sir, would you like to go first?
I just want to say that his sister has joined, but probably I don't know whether she has joined as a panelist.
I will check. I will check.
Shraddha Bakshi is there, I think, from she's saying. So she's there. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, please. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Raman sir, would you like to start? Please.
All right, yeah. I hope I'm audible. So thanks Joy for that very detailed kind of description about it. So I would say when I was very recently reading an article about the old Gramscian article of organic intellectuals, and if I try to fulfill that definition or personify that definition in anyone that I know personally, I can definitely bring in Manoj's name to that. So our first meeting, it's a 1996 to now, so it is about over 25 years of knowing each other, and whether I have worked with him very closely, I'm not very sure I qualify that. But on the other hand, we had several very important areas where we had I had sought his opinion. I had he was kind of a reflection kind of board to me, wherein whether this could be done or not. So I mean, if I put this up, there is another term that I would like to use here, which is the social ecologist. We generally use activist or campaigner, those kinds of description about Manoj, but he was truly a social ecologist as well. In addition to the broader description that I gave, the political description that I gave as the organic intellectual. So this from forest management as a forest service officer to forest ecosystems conservation journey, we see that from that broader ecosystem to what you call the environment protection. That is the kind of journey which marks the life of Manoj, and that qualifies him. I think if we set up or if we try to write about many people who has worked in this broader ecological framework of Indian history, then I would mark him as one of the remarkable persons who started his journey from an official mandate to a social mandate. That is the kind of journey that he has traveled, and in between he had that civil society segment also. Although the traffic will not fully qualify into that very the kind of definition that we used to see in India about civil society. So these two qualifiers, these two kind of adjectives of organic intellectual are something that coming to my mind when I'm talking about Manoj. I met him first, in Dehradun. This was mid-90s in the institute, Forest Research Institute, and it was an accidental kind of a meeting. I didn't know who Manoj was, and he also didn't know, but I went there for something related to literacy. Interestingly, Joy and I were part of the same organization at that time. Wherein
Raman, I think impeted your voice is cracking.
Related programs and Uttar Pradesh tracking together. Is it all right now?
Yes, sir. It is getting muffled in between, but it will stabilize. Go on.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can try to switch off my video for some time. That may help.
That would be right.
Yeah. So here, I was saying that Joy and myself, we were working together in Bharat Gyan Samiti at that time, and I told him about this literacy missions overall, what we are trying to do, etc. And that this was quite interesting that some additional programs that we later initiated, literacy and environment, literacy and the equity inclusion, those kinds of areas wherein we had some influence from him also from that particular discussion. Later in 2002, I landed in Chhattisgarh, invited by the Chhattisgarh government and ActionAid to initiate a community health worker program as well as a health sector reforms program. And it happened that Manoj was the chief forest conservator over there, and our first discussion was about what are the health systems are in place, what are the systems for forest health was one very interesting discussion that we had at that point in time. But later, very soon he retired from the service, and then he was into various other things. So one other important discussion that we had, wherein I thought his very important insights was about setting up systems for tribal health, how forest department and health department can work together, and also in the conflict areas, particularly in a state like Chhattisgarh, that many of the forest areas are also conflict areas where the state and specific groups are in two sides and the tribal populations are in between. So the difficulties and the challenges faced by the tribal populations because of this conflict issues, how to address them through a health systems intervention, and how can that be able to how that can able to overcome the specific problems was another kind of point. And we had initiated some very interesting programs in Chhattisgarh, wherein some initial inputs were from Manoj. That is something that I need to recall. Then when I later, for about say 14 years or so, we could not connect, but in 2015 we connected again wherein I started to work in the water sanitation sector as with a full-time focus, and I joined WaterAid, and we had a program called transboundary water issues, specifically in the Ganga basin. So this was connecting India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And during that process, I met and took his advice on what are the key things that we need to focus on. So that is where one of my colleagues in Uttar Pradesh, Puneet Srivastava, many people here knows him also, I hope, and he had initiated a community democratic platform on water conservation called Jal Chaupal at that point in time. So I asked Puneet to write down that concept in a way that it could be scaled up. So in that process, the most critical questions about such a platform, how to set up such a platform beyond a campaign, how to sustain that as an institutional framework within the community, those kinds of a sustainable measure for strengthening that campaign came from Manoj. And finally, we were about to discuss, it was the same time when Joy and me were in Gopal. So I could not meet him, but I had a talk, and we were about to discuss something about the Ganga River, wherein in Bhalia I had made a visit some 7 months back, and had found that the arsenic contamination of the Ganga River water, particularly in that turning point of the river in Bhalia, was quite high. And there was a lot of public health issues that the health systems were not able to tackle in that area. So recently the Caravan, an article written by Ipsita Pati, covers that particular public health related challenges that have been caused by this particular issue. And we had a very brief discussion about this, and I was about to choke out a conceptual kind of framework of river health and people and health of the people around river. This was a concept that I wanted to take his input, but unfortunately, the evening of the World Environment Day, this World Environment Day, gave me this shock of his departure. And also, it was interesting that as someone has already written in one of the memorial articles for him, when he passed away, people were assembling around Yamuna for protecting or for the measures to protect, or to plan the measures to protect the river. So I mean, something as a at the last phase of his life, what I have tried to see is that he has like many other important rights in India, the environmental and related rights in India also finally is very much dependent on either legal measures or on the regulatory measures, either it is pollution control or green tribunal or so on and so forth, and sometimes court interventions as well. So he was readily guiding the populations how using the legal and constitutional measures for protecting our ecosystem is a viable way of intervening. Apart from the traditional ways of activism, how can we also look into the litigations and related issues is something that from his life we need to learn a lot. And it is very difficult to believe, although as I told in the beginning, we were not very close friends, but the reputation and his reputation and the respect that I had towards him and the kind of support that I always got from him was very, very remarkable in a way. And I don't think I can accept the fact that he's no more, but together many people here I think can try to put some kind of fillers into the large space that he has made vacant as of now. Thank you, Joy, for your introduction, and I hope I am within time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raman sir. Now we go to Lokendra Thakkar ji. Lokendra ji, you are here with us.
Yeah, I'm there. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm really honored to be participating in this very august panel and paying tributes to none other than very dearly friend, philosopher, and guide for me, at least, Mr. Manoj Misra. I had a very long association with him, starting early 90s when he was in Bhopal. And although I don't come from the forest services, and I was quite younger to him, about 11 years younger than him, but we had developed that kind of a rapport and friendship. I'm working in Department of Environment. He was from Forest Department. And being as an IFS officer in early 90s, he started a sort of a consortium or an NGO, if I may say, Friends of Earth. And he invited a lot of forest officers, retired and serving officers, and other than forest people. And he started working on environmental issues in early 90s when he was in very active service life. It has always been for me a source of inspiration and guidance from Mr. Manoj Misra. Recently, on the World Wetlands Day on 2nd Feb this year, I requested him to come and give a keynote address on wetlands. As everybody would know, that he was very shy kind of a person. Once he retired from the services and he was in Bhopal, so I wanted to take him on many committees on environmental issues, but he would rather, be very hesitant about it, and he would say that I would rather keep away, but whatever, inputs and insights you want, I would be happy to offer. But he would not get involved in all such kind of, committees and all, and even delivering lectures and all. So recently on 2nd Feb, he agreed to my request to come and deliver a talk on wetlands. And he spoke so lyrically. I mean, he about his knowledge, everybody knows that he had a complete treasure house of knowledge on rivers and wetlands and waters and forest and wildlife. But he spoke in very lyrical way, starting from his school days and when he got connected to wetlands from early, his hostler days, and then to Missouri and to, his service life, wherever he was posted. And finally, he came on to the last, slide when he talked about some of the Ramsar sites of Madhya Pradesh, which are in a very, critical stage and very fragile. And he connected his experience with those Ramsar sites and then, discussed in detail about the status and how can we manage it. So very, profound person and very non-assuming person, but he made his presence always felt. People noted him. Even if he was not present, he was conspicuous by his absence. And I would say that he was very simple person, very polite, yet he was very firm. He always referred to me, I would always call him a sir, but he would call me Lokendra ji. And that was his way of, treating people equal. When people like him, stalwarts, is a crusader. But he treated people like me at equal, at so ease that I could, approach to him. Many times, when people retire or when they resign, they become quite intelligent. I mean, I'm saying, most of the retired people, and I would also retire in a couple of years. Then I may, become quite intelligent and I'll start saying many things. But people like Mr. Manoj Misra, they had the courage to resign from the services and raise their voice on issues. Those kind of people are needed, because if you can't keep your neck out and you're not firm in your services and you're not able to do what you want, you come out of the system and then raise your voice in hands. That is the way Mr. Misra worked with. And otherwise, it's normal that once you retire and all your tentacles and your knowledge and your, start raising your voice and all. So that is the way he used to work. After this, wetlands, he was also in a committee of the, what you call the action plan for the wildlife in Madhya Pradesh. And in one chapter, he was dealing with wetlands, and I am here in Madhya Pradesh in charge of the State Wetland Authority. So he came to me and he said, I want a long discussion with you. And we sat for about 4 or 5 hours and we discussed the pros and cons and the merits and demerits of the State Wetland Authority and also the wetland rules. And on many occasions, as this normally happens with government officials like me and others also, we would take sort of, very safe position of not doing anything. So many a times I said that wetland rules are quite weak and I can't take any action about these and that. So he quoted, recently said, no, wetland rules are coming from the Environment Protection Act, and you derive your power and strength from the EPA. And in EPA, you can, if any government agency or any municipal corporation or any department responsible for managing the wetlands is not doing any action, you can always, at least give a threat to them that under EPA, some actions can be taken against you. And these actions are quite penal actions. So he would, he would look very fast, simple, very polite, but he was very firm and he would not hesitate in taking actions against even government officials when it comes to, a violation of laws. So these are some of the experiences that I had with him. And of late, I knew him as a forester, as a wildlife expert, as somebody who would always keep his neck out, very honest, very upright, high person with high integrity. But I discovered his, this quality of writing. He was a prolific writer, and he would write on any subject. I worked on wetlands recently, but I'm basically from climate change background, and I would be surprised to read his articles on carbon credits, on markets, on adaptation, on mitigation, on wildlife, on tigers, on wetlands, on rivers. So he had, huge, large spectrum of, interest, and he would write with the same poise and same command on any subject that is given to him. So this is something which was very interesting, and he would share whenever he writes something new. He would send me a WhatsApp or any email link, and he would expect that somebody I should read and then give my feedback. And many a times I would read it, and instantly I will, respond to his article. So just wanted to highlight. I just also wanted to say that on Twitter, normally when in these social media times, we don't like to get any good morning messages. We hate that, oh, what's this nonsense? People keep sending flowers and good morning, some namaste kind of messages. But I would always in the morning wait for his good morning messages on Twitter. Every morning he would post beautiful messages of some insects, of clouds, of water flowing, of flowers, of rivers, of leaves. Every morning he would find something interesting in the nature when you go for the morning walk, and 3-4 pictures he would post that would make your day. So that is the kind of connectedness he had with the nature, and he would keep connected, and he would find sort of surprise and pleasure and very interest in the smallest thing of the nature. When a flower is blooming, clouds are there, it's raining, he would find that interest. And he was so much connected with nature, and that reflected in his personality and also in his work and his actions. So it was amazing. Really, one would like that the COVID has gone, and I would never like to believe that COVID is still around. But unfortunately, COVID took him out. It's personal loss to me, lost the state of Madhya Pradesh, very upright, honest officer, and so country as a who worked for the rivers and wetlands and water. So I really, I'm very sad. I'm like to pay my rich tributes to him. We would like to continue the kind of work that he's going to give me a task to draft the chapter on the wildlife action plan of the state government of Madhya Pradesh. That task given to me by him is still unfinished, and I would definitely contribute whatever I can in this chapter. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Joy, sir, if you want to add anything, you can keep on adding.
No, Arjunji, because I think there are a lot of people who want to speak, so I think they should get a chance. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Next, I invite Nivedita ma'am. Nivedita ji.
हेलो
Yes, मैम आपका वीडियो.
जी
Yes.
हमारे यहाँ ऑफिस में ना बार-बार लाइट जा रही है. आई बिलीव बैकग्राउंड थोड़ा डार्क हो सकता है बीच में. ये तो
Nivedita, can you speak little louder or closer to the mic?
Can you hear me?
This is better slightly.
Yeah. I am speaking on my headphone because I'm in my office. And thank you, IMPRI for inviting me to be part of this tribute memorial meeting. And I would like to start from where Lokendra ji was trying to end, from the good morning tweets that we all enjoyed. I was part of the lot that Manoj ji used to tag every morning, and that's how my morning started for many years. And Lokendra ji has described the beautiful content that he put along with the tweet. And it would not be just any other photo, but something to learn every single day. He would, put a message saying, guess what is this? Can you ID this kind of stuff? And then when we put our comments, he would definitely reply to each of them. So that was how it went on for months, irrespective of his illness earlier when he was fighting cancer, irrespective of the weather, irrespective of whether he was traveling or not. But on 7th April this year, he put out a tweet during the day, and which, in a way, we can say was the beginning of the end. And when I asked him, what about his health and Auntie Ji's health, he said, oh, well, we are doing fine. And his comment was, this COVID strain is not life threatening, I am told. And we were relieved, okay, nothing to worry and all that. Unfortunately, 2 days later, I didn't see his tweet, the good morning tweet, and I messaged him on WhatsApp. And then he said, well, last 2 nights had been very miserable and all that stuff. And I mean, I could understand the problems he possibly had faced during those 2 days, because his last line was, it might be not fatal, but the experience is not too far. I mean, that was like really bad for me, for him to say that it might not be fatal, but the experience is not too far. That was like really worrying for me. And then his last message to me was on 13th April, where he said he's in hospital, still improving. But that was the last message. And then, unfortunately, as we all know, he was a fighter. He kept on fighting in the hospital till the last moment. But I don't want to remember Manoj ji for the sad part or the sad interaction that I had during those last 2 days. My interaction goes right since 2007, when I had just joined HT. And my colleague used to cover environment at that point of time, and I used to do stories once in a while. And at one particular event, I met him for the first time. And in his trademark style, he said, oh, Nivedita ji. Imagine a person of his stature, his age, his experience, his seniority. He would invariably address every journalist with a suffix G. I don't at all remember him calling anybody by simply his name. He would always fix G with it and speak. And as Lokendra ji has just said, Raman ji has just said, it was like his way of treating a person on par. We would call him any time of the day, any time of the night. In fact, I myself rang him up at 11:15, and he would patiently address our queries, provide the context for which we had called and everything like that. And and that was not all. He would read what we had written. And not just me, I can speak on behalf of all my journalist friends. He would read write-ups by almost every journalist he knew and give honest feedback. And there would be suggestions for us to include in it. There would be tip-offs for us to follow from that same write-up. And then there would be occasional mails from him that he sent to either the DDA or the LG or whichever, that would prove to be very good story points for us. So those feedback things and grooming of the journalist, training of the journalist was a massive core that he had taken upon himself. Nobody forced him, but he did that. I think that was a great contribution for journalists, as Manoj ji used to do. I think Joy sir spoke about the book that he had done. As far as I know, he was planning this trilogy of books. One was the Wildlife Act 50 year that is already out, that came out in September 2022. On the 50th year of the 9th September was the date. Then, as we all know, he was working on this book on the Water Act. And the third he had in mind was the Environment Act. And when he approached me for the Wildlife Act and requested me to come up with a chapter based on my experiences, needless to add, I was elated. And once I came to know the fantastic co-authors, I was like, oh my God, there's this saying in Marathi, Vasra Landiga. We are like, I as a journalist, am like a small kacha limbu, and I was pitted with all so many great authors. But going beyond that, what amazed me more was the fact that Manojji had this vision that such documentation is needed, such volume which would go beyond academics is needed, because these are the vital acts, these are the primary pillars on which entire environmental governance works in India. And then these are the volumes. I'm sure the water one would be out, and unfortunately, we would miss the environment one. But the two volumes that would contribute a lot to the discourse and would prove to be a guiding point always. I would like to end on a wonderful note, and it's about the optimism that Manojji had despite the repeated problems that the government agencies keep creating vis-a-vis the rivers, the state of the rivers. It was July 11, 2011, and he was giving an illustrated talk. It was a series called Living Rivers and Dying Rivers. I think it was either at IIC or Habitat. I don't exactly remember. But,
IIC.
Yeah, and that lecture is available online too. And he had highlighted all the many complex, challenges faced by the river. On the one hand, we worship the rivers as divinity. On the other hand, we abuse the rivers. It was an illustrated talk. So he had very wonderful photos to go with. And his starting was very unique. How rivers are like us humans. He said we have prana and the rivers have gravity. And then he, gave a wonderful illustration about how there are multiple agents that cause death of a river. But the optimism part that I want to highlight is I have actually noted down that sentence. Fortunately, unlike us, the rivers can be restored from a state of almost death. This was his line that showcased, for me at least, his ceaseless optimism, his relentless pursuit of bringing back Yamuna to life and bringing back the natural flow of the river. And as has been amply highlighted by previous speakers, and I'm sure by other speakers also, optimism was not restricted only to Yamuna. Yamuna, of course, was his muse, as I say, but other rivers were equally dear to him. And I'm sure that, we keep on working on the path that he has shown. And for us, that river can be restored from a state of almost death is the message that we need to take forward and keep working on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nivedita ji. Next, I would like to invite Ranjan Panda ji. Sir, if you want to go next. Yes, we can see you, sir. Please unmute. Yeah. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is actually indeed a privilege to speak among some of my old friends and guides. So I think Manoj ji also, like I have considered Joy as a guide always. Manoj ji has also been a guide constantly, and my relationship with him goes more through. It started through Professor Rameswamy Iyer. So at a point of time when I was more of an activist kind of a person, where I understood being a sociologist. I was trying to understand rivers and water through most of the societal lenses. Manoj ji, when he was introduced to me by Ramaswamy Iyer ji, and in fact some of their fundamentals are almost the same in many contexts. That's my understanding. And Manoj ji brought something very new to my, I always credit him. Whenever I discussed with him, I always credit him for, the nexus between forest and water. He actually, he told me about, and he had a firm belief, as Nivedita was trying to say, that, science and technology can actually do a lot, uh, along with societal understanding of rivers. And he thought that understanding the river from all the perspectives, and mostly uh, popularizing science education in making people understand river was very important. I think I never worked with him long, directly and for long, but I was part of the same series, Living Rivers and Dying Rivers. So we got a chance to interact, and uh, he was, of course, he's an encyclopedia on Yamuna, I would say. I was just learning Mahanadi. So he was at a different level of an understanding on rivers, and I was at a different level. But I think listening to him, talking to him has would always enrich you. I can go back to a few discussions I had with him, and a few interactions that actually that always made me thinking about the future of our rivers. Like Joy said, whenever there is an issue with rivers, for me also he was a go-to person. So my very sort of uh, understanding on floodplain zones, for example, uh, came from Manoj. I Later on I talked to Himanshu and other friends as well. But then the very first understanding on, when I was studying the Mahanadi floods, and I was trying to understand some of the nuances of siltation and how it impacts. So Manoj ji was the person that I would be bothering with, long discussions and all. So he was the man who actually told me that, um, because that time I was a bit more vocal on, activism had a different atmosphere in India at that point of time. Of course, things have changed. So he he would always say that, be vocal on floodplain zoning. That is something we must discuss more. So everybody should talk about this, and you should take the lead, because you have already started talking this in Mahanadi. You should go to discuss on other rivers, and and kind of that. So he was like, he was a person who would actually groom you, who would not just would not just want to just give you an opinion, and that's it. So he will try to engage with you in whichever little ways that is possible, and through the communications you have or interactions you have. And and he had this belief in somehow had a belief in the government departments as well at that point of time. And he said that, you have to work with the government departments to change. And he always said to me that, there are many good officers within the government system, and you should tap their knowledge, their outreach, and their sort of access to the system to actually make some of the things that you want to happen actually. I think that is what he was there in Bhubaneswar for something else, and we realized that he was there for some zoning mapping uh, for the city's drains or something at that point of time, as part of some other consortium. But then the same time we were organizing a program on flood management in Odisha. So he just the moment I told him that you are in Bhubaneswar, why don't you just come and address us? They were so happy, and he in fact found out time to come. And kind of such a that time he was like I also didn't know much in 2000 I think 11 or 12. I don't remember. I think it's 12. So he was like, I knew him, but I was not very sort of close to him in the way I was at the later years. So he just acceded to my request and came, and that was one of the most wonderful, sort of understanding on floodplains that many participants actually got from Manoj ji in Odisha. So these are some of the way he operated, the way he always discussed, and as Lokendra ji has already said, we were of late very much engaged in Twitter together. So he would be always, and he would always surprise us with some smallest of elements and some questions each morning. And he would retweet many of my tweets and encourage me to do more of these. Talk to me. I had the opportunity of talking to him several times on some of the issues on which I thought I needed more conceptual clarity, and sort of he's as already been said, basically the existential the entirety, river as an entirety, and river basin as a planning unit is something he always emphasized on, and river as a lively a life system per se. And I had written something on sort of the rights of rivers, and he just messaged me that you should focus on more of these aspects. And kind of he also told me about the challenges of the acts in India, and how giving living rights to rivers was, why it was a challenge and what could be done. So kind of he was always ready. The point that I wanted to bring from this is he would never hesitate to actually sort of pass on his knowledge to a junior, to a new person, you know, and somebody uh, who is just not regularly working with him as well, and always you have to look into his writings, his talks, and then the kind of each discussion he brings up so many issues together is like uh, is like something that you always learn, and there is something new always. If you are calling Manoj ji, then you are encountering more actually questions as well, to in the way that he will throw lights on things that will actually make you dwell on that subject for many more hours, many more days. So kind of he had this kind of understanding on rivers, on ecology, and always a very, as everybody said, he's a he was a very humble person. It's really sad that at a point of time everybody was thinking that COVID was gone. uh, COVID took Manoj ji, and I was following his tweet. I was sending him WhatsApp messages, and he in fact responded twice only. So we could never realize that. Initially, I could not realize it was so. He just talked about the RT-PCR test and how then later on he said that under-reporting of this COVID phase could be very deadly. Uh, you know, and then I realized that actually there is something very serious, and kind of I tried to connect with him twice, thrice. I responded, I think twice, and I wished him well, but unfortunately, uh, he suffered for some time, and he didn't deserve to suffer. But the irony here is sort of something with related to oxygen takes the life of a person who has been giving life to rivers and ecology, and that's really sad. But one thing, one message that Manoj ji had shared on WhatsApp, I think as well as on Twitter, was something that he always told me once whenever we had a discussion, and whenever we were talking about the way young generation environmentalists are actually behaving. We had actually 2-3 rounds of discussion on. I was going to write something on the craze for plantation against natural forest, and I had a talk with him, and he was at a point of time he told me something, and that resonated in another message he sent, I think on Twitter as well, is that work for a cause, not for applause. Live life to express, not to impress. Don't strive to make your presence noticed. Just make your absence felt. So I think on that note, Manoj ji actually makes his absence felt very strongly, but then he will be lived through all the legacy that he has left, and many of us will definitely like to continue to learn from him. He still has left a repository of knowledge that we need to dig off and work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Arjun, can we invite Leo, because he sent a message saying that his connectivity or his might drop off any time. So please, if you can invite him, yeah.
Leo, sir, you can go ahead.
Leo, can you come in? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for accommodating me. I'm really sorry that I had to join late, but I'm traveling.
So your video
I
is
hope
not on.
I hope you can hear me, because the signal here is not very good.
Okay. Please go ahead, sir.
Is it audible?
Yeah, audible.
Quite audible.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I will be brief, because it might drop off. So I'll just be brief. I mean, I've been hearing at least 2 or 3 of our comrades speak about Manoj Misra ji. I mean, I just looked up some of his messages, and he said, have a fun-filled and joyful and healthy 2023. And he's not there to, sort of celebrate the rest of the year with us. But I guess he is the kind of man who presented as a metaphorical challenge in the kind of initiatives he launched on, making Yamuna the centerpiece of his work for the last several years. I think what he was really saying is, what's happening to Yamuna, if you cannot fix, you probably have lost the cause across the country. And I think that's a very interesting challenge he took up for himself, because the political power is concentrated along the Yamuna, and yet it is the most polluted river in the country. So in that sense, it is a metaphor of how India is being governed. And I was also looking at some of the work, messages we have exchanged, and we didn't really work together, but I know he was working on his book, and he was quite busy. But the engagement he had with the granular details of many shifts that were taking place. And I found a very interesting conversation he has had with Ramaswamy Iyer and some of us, and on the whole TSR Subramanian report, when Ramaswamy Iyer was quite I would say, more than deeply worried. He was aghast that even a thought such as modifying the basic environmental jurisprudence had come into the head of Mr. Narendra Modi, and we know since then what he has done. So it's not surprising at all. So he said, can we at all do something? And so when we are searching, and even when a person with such eminence as Ramaswamy Iyer was throwing up his hands and saying, what do we do? I find Manoj Misra coming up with a very pragmatic response to it and saying, we should focus on the facts and figures and go after the way in which the TSR Subramaniam committee is going to gloss over all these facts and figures, and that will be their undoing, and therefore they will not be able to change the laws like they want to. Now, it's that effort that he has invested in all of his work, I think, which is the guiding light for us. In fact, one of the problems I have with most of our work nowadays is that we tend to opinionate more than substantiate. And he was a person who substantiated and then formed an opinion. So that discipline, I think, comes from a long effort of integrating science, policy, and practice. For him, that was the only way he could breathe in his unfortunately short life. So I think for us, it should be a lesson in terms of what we should take forward, and perhaps take the metaphorical challenge he presented to us through Yamuna as a challenge, as Ramaswamy Iyer would say. Living rivers and dying rivers was again a metaphorical challenge. Should we have dying rivers? Then we should have a dying country, because there's nothing left after that. So if you want a living country, I think it has to be living rivers all the way. So I would recall these type of conversations I've had with Manoj Misra ji as a testament of faith that we should all share, so that we draw meaning into our ongoing work from the extraordinary efforts that he has invested in his life. So I thank you again for this opportunity, and I mourn with you his loss, but at the same time I celebrate his work. And I guess he is the kind of guy who would probably want us not to continue mourning for his non-presence in his mortal form, but celebrate his immortal presence with his metaphorical challenge to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So now I invite Mallika Bhanot ji. Ma'am, are you ready? Yes.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Arjun ji. A lot has been already said. I'm just wondering where to begin. I was just to speak about a person who is just as an extraordinary and as a remarkable person as Manoj ji is always quite a bit of a task. I think for all of us who have been working in the field of environmental issues and struggling with so many environmental policies and environmental fronts in the country, Manoj ji has always been a go-to person. I mean, you need a number, you go to Manoj ji. You need to connect with somebody. You need to understand who is the scientist working in which field, who is doing a better work. He was like a networker. So he would connect us to the right person at the right time. In fact, even in the media, as a person, he would guide, he would be a mentor. But most interestingly, it's my connect with Manoj ji is not in the field of environment, like everybody right now here also in terms of the policy, I am a student of Indian philosophy. I am a student who has been fighting the cultural sanctity of the Ganga River. And as a young person who had joined this battle to save the Ganga River, I remember meeting Manoj ji for the first time in Ministry of Environment and Forest. And it was a meeting that Shashi sir had organized. And as Joy sir was mentioning, it was a room full of engineers of different hydropower project companies soon after the disaster of 2013. These were engineers of the hydropower companies that the Supreme Court had asked to sit before the petitioners and discuss why is hydropower such a problem in the state of Uttarakhand. So you can imagine a room full of hostile instead of engineers, a room full of super volatile activists, and a very calm and composed Manoj ji and Shashi sir. this was the design of that room. This is where I was. And of course, you know which section I was in. So as volatile and as verbose as I could be, I was. And I very distinctly remember that challenging and, you know, really just basically putting forth different policies, different laws, nothing, not even a single on ground proof was supporting any of these projects to come up after the disaster of 2030. And Manojji was silent throughout the meeting. Throughout the meeting, not a word this person said. And, you know, as Joyji was pointing out, he was the key person. Even though he didn't say anything, he was only observing. He was the key person to put the right, because he was brought about by MOEF as a consultant. And he gave exactly the right perspective. And for the first time in the history of all of the petitions regarding hydropower projects in the country, has the government given an affidavit actually admitting that there has been a direct and an indirect impact in escalating the impact of the 2013 disaster. Hydropower projects and their issues in the state in Himalayas for the first time came out in light. Not that much has happened after that, but at least that truth is there with us standing, and it becomes a solid ground for different petitions that have come forth after that. So that was a big achievement, and I cannot thank Manojji enough for that. But not just this Ganga hydropower projects. I remember, you know, even after the issue is actually, I wanted to discuss that and tell everybody that my connection with Manojji is I think is going to be a good contribution to this discussion would be that, you know, during the environmental issues, when we discuss environmental struggles, we are always discussing very technical aspects of forest, technical aspect of wetlands, why is the flash flood happening, cloudburst happening, this and that. Manojji and I, we connected on something else. He was a person, and the only person of his kind in the entire environmental field that I have come to, who would speak technical details to the very core, but he would speak about the rivers as living entity. Really, that kind of connect that I had, because this is where we used to speak with each other, referring to the rivers as mothers, and it was a normal conversation. We would say to each other and saying, "Arey Manoj ji, aap dekh rahe hain Ganga ji ki kya sthiti ho rahi hai?" Or Manoj ji would reply back saying ki Mallika ji, yahi to issue Yamuna ji ke sath bhi hai. The way that we spoke, for us, rivers have always been living, and that connect is one massive loss which is unbearable, and I don't think it can be filled with anything else. So that is one of my distinct memories. The other thing I would want to bring to the table for everybody to know is that, you know, when since we are working in the upper stretches of the Ganga River and all the tributaries, and it's a massive basin. We all know that Ganga is a massive basin, and 2,500 kilometers of the river in this country, only 80 kilometers is free flowing. So only 80 kilometers is what we can actually call a river. And I remember that, you know, when there was a very good judgment that came out in the High Court of Uttarakhand, saying that Ganga is a living entity, and it was and Manoj ji immediately called me up, you know, when this thing came up, and he said, "Mallika, did you get a hold of this order? Did you get a hold of this judgment? My God, this is brilliant. This is what we keep discussing. We have to bring this up for every single river in this country. They're all living entities," he would say. And the spark in his eyes and the excitement in the voice, I don't know how else to describe it. And we went on and on, but, you know, unfortunately enough, for whatever reason, Supreme Court then withdrew that High Court order, and it was something that was unfortunately could not be built upon. But that is how I have seen Manojji. I have seen him, and I have understood him really seeing the flow of these rivers as the flow of our culture and civilization. And that is where the connect that I had with him is something which was very unique, and which is something that I don't think that I don't know how to fill it up, which is how in this recent book that he was working on, Waters, he persuaded me to write a chapter on seeking water as divine. And when he approached me and I was laughing, I said, my God, you have like 110 people in your network and you're reaching out to a philosopher to basically write something on the water. Why is it? And he
But have
said,
you
no, but
submitted the chapter?
I
Did you
have,
send the chapter? Okay. Yeah.
so I think Manojji had given me last two inputs. And after that, I have to, I included those inputs, but I'm yet to send the final version of it. So that is what the interesting part about the whole thing was. And I would say that in, you know, where we have written resolutions together. And when Uttarakhand government, when the in the state of Uttarakhand, the central government started with Char Dham road widening. Now this was a massive project. Entire environment impact assessment was bypassed, and Manojji was the key person to bring so many people under one umbrella. And we wrote a very good resolution with parliamentarians, with different scientists, and all of these resolutions then we submitted in the Prime Minister's office and had significant impact. Uh, Similarly, we wrote a similar resolution, I think, in 2018 for hydropower projects in the state of Uttarakhand. And that resolution also Manojji helped in drafting as well as in collecting all the signatories. And it was around 64 people who signed. But that one thing got us a meeting with the Prime Minister. And we, a set of parliamentarians and all of us, we went. Manojji at that point of time had already shifted to Bhopal. Otherwise, he would have been one of our panel members. But we met and we've discussed. So the one of the interesting aspect is that every time that we used to work on the issue of the Ganga, Manojji would always come back to me and say that Mallika, ye mat bholna ki Yamuna ki bhi utni samasyaएं jitni Ganga ki. Every time that he would point out, and we would invariably immediately include the Yamuna ji with everything else. uh, a lot of intricate details in terms of the legal issues are also there, because Justice Radha Krishnan had given a very good judgment where he had also stopped hydropower projects in the Yamuna Valley. But when he retired, the hydropower projects in the entire judgment was interpreted in a very different way, and Yamuna Valley was kept separate from the Ganga Valley, which is why Manojji was very unfortunate. And Manojji and I, we always discussed that how Lakhwar Vyasi is becoming the next eyesore and a big issue in the Yamuna Valley in the times ahead. And he was very concerned about this. And of course, rightly so, even till date, we have to still struggle on that issue. So that's one of the many pending works that he's left behind, which I think all of us will have to come together and take it up. Uh, we worked on the People's Ganga Act, and People's Ganga Act is one of been the act that we've written together. And Manojji was very helpful in providing all the feedbacks and everything. And again the aspect that Are Yamuna ji ko include utna hi karna hai jitna Ganga ji ko karna hai. I still remember his discussions always pointing out to that aspect. And convincingly we had to convince him also every time that no, Yamuna ji is just as much part of the Ganga basin as any other tributary would be. So I think the beauty of this memory is that now when I work, I think since last almost 1 year, uh, almost 6-7 months, I think we haven't drafted anything together. And now that I am drafting something, and his training has been so innate that every time now that I'm writing, it's effortlessly happening that I'm saying, "Acha, now Yamuna Basin also has to come." So uh, I think that this is something that he's left behind very, very strongly, because a lot of the issues in the upper valleys and the origin valleys have been ignored. And this rapaciousness in terms of development, in terms of this requirement that how the state of Uttarakhand or Himachal or any of these Himalayan states, we want so much of development, and so much this rapaciousness is taking over our waters, and the waters have merely become resources. So I'm sharing this because the sadness in our conversation was often brought about when Manojji and I we discussed. And and we had very long chats in terms of what the government policies are working towards, and how they need a massive shift, not in terms of the policy, but in terms of a will, the will to change and the will to allow the environment to flourish. Because not even we like, you know, we I am one of the members of the Bhagirathi eco-sensitive zone committee. That is the only eco-sensitive zone around a river in the country. It's Bhagirathi ESZ. Like the last patch of the Ganga was identified, and then watershed area around that has been declared as an eco-sensitive zone. So literally speaking, that's the only area which is considering water as something which needs to be protected per se. And because we didn't even have a law in terms of the environmental flow, and how much Manojji and I, we discussed in every single government meetings that we need at least a law for e-flows. And I'm sure Himanshu would be able to add so much more to that. So when we speak about Bhagirathi eco-sensitive zone, Yamuna eco-sensitive zone, Pindar eco-sensitive zone, Alaknanda eco-sensitive zone, Mandakini ESZ, all of this used to come about. And he always used to say that all the valleys are similarly fragile, similarly vulnerable, and how each of these valleys need to be protected as entities, as living entities, so that they can flow. And I was just noticing the video that Siddharth has made and shared in the beginning. You know, the line that he said, that Nadi bas itna kehti hai ki use behne do. And that is the beauty of his work. He always, because that is actually the key thing that all of us know, that as long as the rivers are flowing, they are going to be clean, they're going to be nourishing, and they will do their work. The moment you block the rivers, it's devastative, it's destructive. No matter whatever, at least in the mountains, this has come out to be the true reality. So as I would say that as a person, I have lost a father figure, I have lost a friend, I have lost a companion to discuss this heart-wrenching discussions about what is happening to the culture of this country. We would speak about Bhagavad Gita, we would speak about karma, we would speak about saying that you know, let this be, let the world be, we have to just do our karma and move on. And you know, in his memory, I've actually penned down something which I would like to take the liberty and bring it before you. It's a small poem that I have written in for just to remember Manojji with. It's in Hindi, so please bear with me. I want to end this thing and just tell you all that what exactly and how deep this person was. गुजर गए वो, हद है, ऐसे कैसे कोई यूं ही गुजर सकता है, हमें पीछे छोड़ अपने सफर पे निकल सकता है, एक लड़ाई सी खुद में जन्म लेती है, गुजरे उन लोगों को वापस आना चाहिए, उनको यूं जाने देना संभव नहीं, ये कहती है, गुजरे हुए उन लोगों के बिना गुजारा है मुश्किल, उनकी जगह ये खालीपन जैसे तैसे भरना है मुश्किल, आज गुजरे लोगों की याद में भरी सभा में आंखें भर आईं, खुद में शर्मसार मैं चाहते हुए आंसुओं के सिवा कुछ नहीं सुना पाई, दूर बैठे वो सोच रहे होंगे कि कितनी पागल है ये, रो रही है उस पे जिस पे सबको गुजरना है, देर सवेर सब अपनों को आप छोड़कर बिछड़कर कहीं किसी और रूप में अपना काम करते जाना है, अपना काम करते जाना है. And Manoj ji was this person. He was this deep. He would have understood and he would have said that I'm just moving on, doing more work. So I wish and I hope that all of us are able to take this this torch that he's handed over to us ahead with the same humility, with the same promise, and with the same understanding. We can at least make that attempt. So thank you so much for this opportunity, IMPRI.
Thank you, Mallika ji, for your insightful remarks and truly heartfelt appreciation, which enlightened our understanding.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Suresh Babu ji. Sir, you are here. Yeah. Please unmute yourself, sir. Please, yeah.
Sir, can you hear me now? Yeah, on behalf of WWF India Traffic and India Rivers Forum, pay our respects to Manoj sir. Manoj sir left behind a valuable and the great legacy in all the fields that he has worked. Just to quote few colleagues who remembered and during the memorial that we organized last week, everyone remembered him for his calm determination and winning smile. People said that he had difference of opinions with decision makers on their approaches on rivers, but he has always kept his cool and he was very determined to get the right results. My journey with Sir, as a young researcher, I got to know about Sir during his early days of Yamuna Jiye Abhiyaan, and what really fascinated me was the fourth pillar, I would say, to what Leo said. He talked about science, policy, and practice. One of the core pillars for his approach around rivers was people. And many of us know about his first attempt to come up with what is called as a People's River Health Index. It's a beautiful concept that he has come up with, and the way he has gone about establishing, I would say, first of its kind, Nadi Mitra Mantlis. Sudhaji is on the call, and she will remember this. And many of us had been associated with this initiative and were very fascinated. The idea was to bring people together, particularly the riparians, and also to look at the river critically, as to how the river health is behaving, changing over a period of time. And I would say that from the lens of cleanliness, he brought this aspect of healthy rivers into the vocabulary of conservationists. So I think that's one invaluable contribution that Manoj sir has made, and it has inspired many people, local people. I with the fond memories, I remember sir's description of small tributaries. Mallika ji talked about Ganga and Yamuna debate, but he's also fond of smaller tributaries. Near Saharanpur, one of his favorite rivers, Katha, which is a tributary of the Yamuna, and how those Nadi Mitra Mantlis are still inspired to take actions. So one side is activism, his interest and scientific rigor to dissect, demystify complex issues through nuanced understanding of hydrology, hydraulics, etc., and simplifying those things, but also empowering local stakeholders with solutions. So the Nadi Mitra Mantlis were also empowered to look at alternate practices, in terms of sanitation, in terms of agriculture, and also in terms of their own understanding of the biodiversity within the rivers, and whether it is turtles, gharials, or dolphins. So this remains as one of the greatest lessons that I have had from Manoj sir. And in fact, with that inspiration, WWF India has initiated the work on Nadi Mitras, Friends of Rivers, across the places where we work. And we are seeing that it's a fascinating engagement tool to keep the local stakeholders motivated and inspired. That's one point. And the other one is, I think it's an unfulfilled, probably a task. Many of us will need to sort of work on it together. His passion for river regulation zoning act. So he had been as a part of a committee. I think Shashekhar sir was the additional secretary at that time. So a committee was constituted. I fondly remember Ladaji, Dr. Brijgopal sir, and Manoj sir drafting the river regulation zoning draft notification. In fact, that's the kind of vision that he had was to ensure lateral connectivity of rivers. The rivers need to flood, and no one should really tinker with the floodplains of our rivers. So I think this is an area that we'll need to sort of work around, because it's not from a regulation point of view, but from a river conservation point of view, from achieving the health of rivers, we need to ensure the lateral connectivity. So I think that's one thing that we will need to discuss, how we can take this work forward. The second thing, I clearly remember there had been, so in the India Rivers Forum, we were very fortunate to work with Sir very, very closely. And he had been the driving force of the India Rivers Forum, throwing up new ideas for discussion and deliberation with with different practitioners, scientists, activists, decision makers across various relevant issues. And the way he would come up with detailed notes on different thematic areas that need to be discussed in the forum, it's just very, very meticulous, and it kind of kept the forum going. I remember that in one of the India Rivers Forum, I'm not able to recall like which edition of the India Rivers Forum it was. One of the discussion he wanted to have was to define rivers. So many of us questioned him, okay, sir, river, why do we need to define the river? But you will not believe, that one session took more than 2.5 hours, because the understanding of rivers was like the recognition or identification of an elephant by many blind men. So this kind of brought very intense discussion and brought various perspectives together. And then his attempt to bring it all together and trying to define what a river means was something very, very incredible. And the kind of patience that he displayed in many of these events was something very, very fascinating. I just want to end by also saying that his eye for people, practitioners, local groups, local community members who had been doing significant amount of work on the ground, making small differences, small progresses in the areas that they work, was just amazing. And this kind of thinking also led to the constitution of the Bhagirath Prayas Saman. And it's incredible when we look back. We were in a meeting early this week, the India Rivers Forum, to look back on the journey of the last 10 years. Incredible initiatives have been recognized. But sir always used to have a complaint that we are not getting enough nominations. Is it that people are not working on rivers, or is it that we are not able to sort of find people who are really working on the ground? So the whole focus on unsung heroes and kind of recognizing and acknowledging them had been one of his mission as well. When he walks into WWF India office, right from the guard to the receptionist to the colleagues who are working on various aspects of conservation to the CEO, he had a welcoming smile. He used to call most of the people as beta. How are you? And that will be really, really missed. I think what is most important is that like someone said, it's a time to celebrate his work, and his legacy will inspire and will motivate us to continue the work that we all had been doing, maybe with much more rigor, and helping realize his dreams of a healthy river. So once again, thank you, IMPRI and Mr. Joy, for having us share our thoughts and pay tributes to Manoj sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh ji, for your kind remarks and for valuably contributing to this discussion.
Now invite Siddharth Agarwal ji.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Please.
Yes, all right. Thank you. I think I go last, and I definitely don't have much to add in regards to sir's work, but I would very briefly want to just say a few things or a few words about Manoj ji in person. And it's not something that nobody has said yet, but here it is anyways. I've sometimes called Manoj ji a mentor, and when I think about it, I think that if I said this in front of him, he would be the first person to say, oh no, nothing like that. We're just co-travelers or companions, and there is no mentor relationship here. And that was the humility of Manoj ji, which really draws one in. Whoever has been touched by him, everybody knows him to be a humble companion, always willing to listen to ideas, thoughts, troubles, and then he would answer them in a very measured way. In so many situations that I've seen Manoj ji, he has been the glue and he has been the driving force. And he would somehow have this incredible ability to navigate all of these situations that were thrown at him with an incredible depth of knowledge as well as character. It never felt like he was speaking just for the sake of speaking. It was always speaking from a sense of knowing, from a place of knowing. And that made listening to him so much more like you would definitely not get distracted by something else if you were listening to Manoj speaking. And for everybody who's talked about Manoj, the ability for him to become more than just this person in your life, this ability to become a holding space, this ability to become that sounding board, that ability to become that guide without any ego. I think that has been so incredible to learn from him and so many along with him. But today we remember Manoj for everything that he has been. Even for so many experimental efforts, some that I have made, some that others have proposed, he would be the first, even if we did not understand it truly, to not dismiss. He would never be dismissive. And I think it is such a rare phenomenon. It is such a rare quality to not be dismissive, especially when you come from a place where you have achieved so much, you have seen so much, you have learned so much. I know there are some things that I have often said to him and later got to know that he listened to my ideas, he entertained it, he discussed it with him, whereas he has seen the same thing failing in another location. And that has been incredible on how he has allowed others to develop along with him without necessarily imprinting himself very harshly on them. And he even till the last moments that we've spoken, he was always ready to absorb and adopt ideas, very much like the river absorbs its tributaries into it. And that's how I remember Manoj. And beyond all of this, I think in Manoj, I had found my biggest cheerleader who would do, and he would do this not just for me, but anybody he knew. He would be their biggest cheerleader without exception, without condition. And I don't know if I can ever find another Manoj, but it has truly been an incredible honor to be closely associated with him for the past many years. And the only hope is to take forward these values, these ideas, these ideals, and just really resisting this urge to pick up the phone and call him right now. Uh, uh, Sorry. And just to close that, we are creating a space at India Rivers Forum to hold any tributes that you might have for Manoj. So you can email it to us at indiariversforum@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat as well. And thank you for listening and creating this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for your kind appreciation and for your valuable contribution to our discussion.
Thank you. Himanshu sir is not able to join, some family emergency. Ipsita ji is also not here, but Bhavreen ma'am was here. But I'm trying to get in connection. Meanwhile, Joy sir, if you want to have the floor and add to the things, we can also have some question answer, also have participants to speak if anyone wants to speak.
See, if none of the panels are there, probably Dr. Arjun, we could also open up the floor to some of the other people who can speak. But yes. I thought Shraddha Bakshi is here.
Yeah, we can also, yes. Shraddha ji, yes.
I think we should request Shraddha Bakshi to speak. Yeah, Shraddha ji. Yeah.
And please unmute yourself.
नमस्कार। आपने ये इतना खूबसूरत प्रोग्राम अरेंज किया और सब बहुत ही विद्वत जन यहाँ आए। भाई के लिए इतनी सुंदर भावनाएं लोगों के बीच में आप घूमती हैं, सब लोग इतना अच्छा बोलते हैं उनके लिए, यही हमारे लिए बहुत काफी है। मैं उनके कुछ पारिवारिक एस्पेक्ट के बारे में बताना चाहूंगी कि वो घर में कैसे थे। उनका काम आप सबने देखा और आप सबने उनके साथ मिलकर जुड़कर काम किया। यमुना जी के लिए काम किया, पानी के लिए काम किया, जंगलों में और वाइल्ड लाइफ के लिए काम किया। लेकिन वो घर में कैसे थे और वो मनोज मिश्रा कैसे बने, ये आपको शायद न पता हो, तो मैं उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताना चाहूंगी। कबीरदास जी का एक दोहा है, कबीरा जब हम पैदा हुए जग हंसे हम रोए, ऐसी करनी कर चलो हम हंसे जग रोए। आज स्थिति ये आ गई है। वो बड़े हुए, जब उनका जन्म हुआ तो मथुरा में हुआ, जो कि यमुना जी के तट पर बसा हुआ है। और उस समय इतना स्पेशल डे था, विजयदशमी का दिन। उनके ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर शंख बजा रहे थे और पूजा हो रही थी और मनोज जी अवतरित हुए। उन्हें हमेशा जल्दी रहती थी, तो अवतरित भी 2 महीने पहले हो गए। ऐसी स्थिति के बाद जब वो थोड़े 3-4 महीने के इस लायक हुए, तो उसी समय उनके ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर ने उन्हें देखकर कहा कि ये कुछ अद्भुत सा बच्चा है, इसके चारों तरफ चिड़ियां घूमती रहती हैं और वो जो भी उनके लिए कुछ रखा जाता था आकर खा जाती थी। जब ये 7-8 महीने के हुए तो बंदर आने लग गए। फिर इनके ऊपर खास नजर रखी जाने लगी कि भाई ये तो खुद ही अट्रैक्ट कर लेता है बाहर के जंतुओं को। उसके बाद जब ये थोड़े और बड़े हुए तो ये हमारे पापा के घर आ गए। उससे पहले ननिहाल में थे और वहां पर फिर पापा की मेंटरिंग शुरू हुई। हमारे फादर बहुत ही आर्टिस्टिक नेचर के थे। जमींदार होते हुए भी जमींदारी से उनको कोई मतलब नहीं था। अपने को कृषक कहते थे। मतलब जब हम लिखते थे कि आपके फादर का क्या वो है, काम क्या करते हैं, ऑक्यूपेशन क्या है, तो हम उनको फार्मर लिखते थे और वो लिखवाते थे इस चीज को कि आई एम ए फार्मर। उसके बाद पापा ने जर्नलिज्म में इंटरेस्ट दिखाया और करंट अफेयर्स उनके टिप्स पे रहते थे। तो पापा जो थे वो अपने बच्चों को करंट अफेयर्स से वाकिफ रखना चाहते थे, तो उनके साथ बहुत डिस्कशन किया करते थे। अर्ली मॉर्निंग वॉक्स होती थी उनकी रेलवे लाइन के ऊपर, जो जंगल के अंदर से गुजरती थी। और पापा और दोनों मेरे भाई, मैं तो बहुत छोटी थी, और ये लोग डेली अर्ली मॉर्निंग वहां से वॉक करके आते थे। कभी हाथ में फूलों की टहनियां, डालियां, और वो ला करके सब कुछ प्रेजेंट होता था मम्मी को ताकि वो घर में सजा सके। तो इस तरह से अब पापा को आर्टिस्ट भी थे, तो वो कहीं भी रैंडम स्टोन्स उठा लेते थे और उनमें पेंटिंग किया करते थे। ये सारे स्टोन्स ये भाई ही उठा के लाते थे साथ में। वहां से पत्थरों से लगा हुआ नदियों के किनारे ले गए पापा उनको। हम हर 15-20 दिन में पिकनिक जाते थे, तो वो उसमें पूरा हमारा कुटुंब जाता था। तो वो भी एक इनके लिए बड़ा खास स्पेशल इवेंट हुआ करता था। और इसके बाद फिर इनकी ट्रेनिंग शुरू हुई धौलपुर मिलिट्री स्कूल में। इनको वहां भेज दिया गया। तो दोनों भाई मेरे धौलपुर मिलिट्री स्कूल में पढ़े, जहाँ डिसिप्लिन काफी अच्छा था। और वहाँ के कर्नल घई करके एक प्रिंसिपल हुआ करते थे, जिन्होंने इनको इनकी प्रतिभा को नोटिस किया, क्योंकि ये हमेशा 5 पॉइंटर रहे अपने क्लास में। और उन्होंने इतना ध्यान किया कि वो इनको एक जगह बताते थे कि तुम यहाँ छतरी के नीचे, राजस्थान में छतरियां बनी होती हैं छत पे, मेरे ऑफिस की खिड़की के सामने बैठोगे ताकि मैं तुम पर नजर रख सकूं। और ये बिल्कुल डिसिप्लिन में बैठ करके वहीं पढ़ाई करते थे। कुछ समझ में ना आए तो जाकर टीचर्स से पूछते। तो वहां से जो प्रेम स्नेह इनको अपने टीचर्स के साथ, बाकी लोग साथियों के साथ मिला, उससे क्या हुआ कि ये हमेशा अव्वल रहने लगे। और जब इन्होंने हायर सेकेंडरी भी पास किया तो वो भी बहुत अच्छे मार्क्स के साथ ये वापस आए। उसके बाद ये पहुंच गए पंतनगर एग्रीकल्चर यूनिवर्सिटी। तो वहां कहीं दिमाग में तो ये था कि पापा तो फार्मर हैं, मुझे भी कुछ समझना है। हालांकि बीएससी किया फिजिक्स में, लेकिन गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट वहां से आए। उसके बाद पापा की ही दी हुई कुछ शिक्षा ऐसी थी कि मैं आईएएस करूंगा ही नहीं, एग्जाम दूंगा ही नहीं, मुझे सिर्फ आईएफएस बनना है, फॉरेस्ट सर्विसेज में ही जाना है। और वो जो धुन लगी तो हर काम बड़े शिद्दत से करते थे, बहुत बहुत ही ये सोच करके कि इसे तो पूरा करना ही है। अब वहां से ये फॉरेस्ट में आ गए। अभी कुछ दिनों पहले जब हम घर पैक करने लगे तो मुझे इनकी एक फाइल मिली उसमें एक लेटर मिला जो 1991 का था और शायद तब तक ये 10 साल नौकरी कर चुके थे। तो उसमें इन्होंने अपने वन मंत्री, भोपाल के वन मंत्री को ये लेटर लिखा था और उसमें उनको सलाह दी थी और उनसे रिक्वेस्ट की थी कि अगर आप कोई भी एसओपी या कुछ भी नया बनाने, पॉलिसी बनाने जा रहे हैं तो कृपया मुझे जरूर उसमें मौका दें। मैं कौन हूँ? मैं एक 10 साल से नौकरी करने वाला वन विभाग का अधिकारी हूँ। वो पत्र भेजा गया कभी या नहीं भेजा गया उसका मुझे पता नहीं, लेकिन वो पत्र देखकर मेरे मन में आया कि बीज तो यहाँ से आ ही चुका था। मतलब ये सिस्टम को सुधारने की कोशिश काफी करने की कोशिश करते थे और जब भी कुछ भी काम हाथ में लेते तो वो इतने मनोयोग से उसे पूरा करने की कोशिश करते कि उसमें फिर किसी को कोई संदेह नहीं रह जाता कि कहीं इनके पीछे इनका कोई अपना मोटिव है या कोई मतलब है। ऐसी 2007 में जब इन्होंने यमुना जी का मुद्दा उठाया तब तक ये नौकरी से इस्तीफा दे चुके थे और पीस इंस्टीट्यूट इनका चल रहा था, वो भी अब पूरा होने वाला था। तो 2007 से इनको अचानक से एक जागृति हुई कि नहीं, इतने सालों से यहाँ कोई खड़ा नहीं हो पा रहा और सब कुछ योजनाएं बनती हैं यमुना को सुधारने के लिए और होता कुछ नहीं। तो सबसे पहले इन्होंने यमुनोत्री से यात्रा शुरू करी। उसके किनारे किनारे घूमते हुए सब एक एक माइलस्टोन पे नीचे उतर करके वहां के लोगों से बात करना, उनकी समस्याओं को समझना और फिर हथनी कुंड तक आते आते यमुना जी का उसके बाद क्या हाल होता है उस सब पे भी इन्होंने विचार विनिमय, बहुत सारे लोगों को जोड़ा, बहुत सारे साइंटिस्ट आए, बहुत सारे वहाँ के लोकल लोग आए, गांव के लोग आए, मित्र मंडलियां बनी और वो मित्र मंडलियां आज भी उनके नाम पर मुझे फोन करके पूछती हैं कि क्या सचमुच में ऐसा हो गया। और वो मित्र मंडलियां इसके बाद इन्होंने कुतुब से ताज तक एक पैदल यात्रा करी यमुना के किनारे किनारे और उसमें इन्होंने कोशिश करी कि सबसे ज्यादा मैली यमुना जो है वो दिल्ली के आसपास है और उसके कारण क्या है। उसके बाद न जाने कितने पीआईएल, न जाने कितने इन्होंने कोर्ट में केसेस किए। जैसे आज मल्लिका जी ने बताया कि वहां पर सारे इंजीनियर्स कोर्ट में खड़े थे और मैं आपको बताती हूँ कि ये सिर्फ 4 या 5 लोग थे। तो जज साहब ने खुद कहा कि ये क्या कौरव और पांडव का केस चल रहा है कि एक तरफ इतने सारे लोग और एक तरफ 2-4 लोग। तो ऐसा होता ही है, किसी अच्छे काम के लिए कोई निकलता है तो उसके साथ बहुत सारे लोग नहीं आते। अप्रिशिएट सब करते हैं, सराहना देते हैं, उनका मोरल हाई करते हैं, लेकिन आकर के कोर्ट में खड़े होना ये किसी और के मतलब की बात ही नहीं है। तो वो उनमें से भी थे कि भाई कोई आए ना आए, एकला चलो, हम चलेंगे और काम करेंगे। यमुना जी को मैया मानते थे तो बुधवार को उनके लिए व्रत करते थे कि किसी तरह से लोगों को जागृति हो और यमुना जी के स्थिति हालत सुधरे। पंचनदा जो था जगह थी वो उनकी फेवरेट प्लेस थी और उस जगह से उनको इतना प्रेम था, वो केन बेतवा मुझे लगता है कि वहीं से उनका जो आया कि भाई नदियों को जोड़ना उचित नहीं है और अगर वो जुड़ जाएंगी तो पानी का इतना प्रवाह फैल जाएगा कि वो जहाँ जहाँ की है वहां की भी नहीं रह पाएंगी। यमुना जी एक लिविंग बीइंग की तरह है। इस चीज को प्रूव करने के लिए न जाने कितने वर्कशॉप्स स्कूल्स में किए, न जाने कितने वर्कशॉप्स इन्होंने इसमें आईआईसी के एनएक्सी में किए, WWF में किए, जिसने जहां बुलाया, चाहे मिनिस्टर्स हो, चाहे कॉलेजेस हो, चाहे कोई भी इंस्टीट्यूट हो, वहां भाई पहुंच जाते थे। उसके बाद फिर टीवी के उसमें इनकी वर्कशॉप्स होने लगी, इन्होंने बहुत कुछ समझाने की भी कोशिश की, लोगों ने पहचानना भी शुरू किया, सब कुछ हुआ। लेकिन अब मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आप सब लोग इतने जागृत हैं, आप लोगों ने इतने बड़े बड़े इंस्टीट्यूट्स बनाए हुए हैं, तो आपके सभी सदस्य जानते हैं कि मनोज मिश्रा ने क्या किया और उनकी क्या एस्पिरेशंस थी, आगे क्या करना चाहते थे। आई एम श्योर आप ही के हाथों 10-15 मनोज मिश्रा निकल के आएंगे, वो हम सब के दिल में बसे हुए हैं और उनका प्रभाव जो है वो कहीं नहीं मरने वाला। हम ठीक है भाई, आज फिजिकली हमारे बीच में नहीं है, लेकिन स्पिरिचुअली तो वो हमारे साथ ही हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी समस्याएं ज्यों की त्यों हैं और उन समस्याओं को संभालने के लिए मुझे पूरी श्योरिटी है और मैं पूरी तरह से आशावान हूँ कि घर के लोग तो साथ देंगे ही देंगे, और भी बहुत से उनके साथी जो उनके साथ काम करते रहे, वो जरूर ही जरूर इसको और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए, इस चीज को सुधारने के लिए, क्योंकि जगत जो है वो सुधरना उसकी नियति है। एक बार पूरी तरह से डूबता है, उसके बाद फिर सुधार आता है। तो ठीक है, अगर हमें डूबना ही है तो हम उस दिन का भी वेट कर लेंगे कि वे पूरी तरह डूब लें, उसके बाद फिर उभरे। तो ऐसी आशाओं के साथ मैं धन्यवाद देती हूँ आप सबको और उनकी पुत्री अंजनी, जो शायद अभी प्रेजेंट है यहाँ पर, क्योंकि उन्होंने बीड़ा उठाया है, अंजनी ने बीड़ा उठाया है कि वो उनके जो पब्लिश होने वाले जो भी कुछ बुक्स हैं वो उसको पब्लिश करेंगी और इस व्यक्ति को आगे बढ़ाएंगी। तो धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद IMPRI को। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thanks. Arjunjit, how much time do we have? Another about 10 minutes or something? We can extend? Yeah.
Yes, we can
Okay,
extend.
so I suggest we open it up a bit to others. I can see a couple of people, I would very much like them to share a few thoughts and their feelings. One is Professor Dinesh Marotia ji. He also wrote to me later about their association. I knew very much, Manoj and his association. Manoj was very much connected with the National Institute of Ecology, which was set up by Professor Brij Gopal ji. And I think Dinesh Marotia ji was also his president and things. So I would invite Professor Dinesh Marotia ji to share his feelings. A couple of minutes, sir.
Dinesh ji, you can unmute and start speaking. Dinesh ji, you can unmute.
Okay.
That is it. Meanwhile, we also have Manshi Asar ji. Manshi ma'am.
Yeah, Manshi Asar ko bhi main पूछने वाले थे कि Manshi, can you go first then? I'll sort it out with Dinesh.
Dinesh ji is there.
Yeah, Manshi is there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, IMPRI, for organizing this, and thank you, Joy and Arjun and Naina for giving me an opportunity to speak. I don't have too many words to say. I just wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude. It's a bit late in the day. Manoj ji is not with us, but I still remember the first day that I met him back in 2009 when the fight against Renuka Dam began in Himachal, and the people from the affected area reached out to us, and the first person we reached out to after Himanshu Thakkar was Manoj ji. In fact, Himanshu ji put us in touch with Manoj ji, and there was no looking back after that. I think that he left no stone unturned to, help, support, be part of that campaign, to really question, the kind of development model, to support with the research, with the writing, with the filmmaking that happened. Both the films on this issue, he was part of that, and later he kind of on every issue he was always there, whether it was related to the Yamuna or not. He was always there to bounce off ideas, and I want to just echo what I think everybody knows this about him, and Siddharth also said it, that there was a humility about him that was really heartwarming. He was never despite his knowledge and his, experience, he always behaved in a way that he just wanted to share and learn and, exchange ideas. There was no ego, and there was no kind of feeling of a knowledge superiority that he gave, or kind of, he didn't intimidate us in any way. In fact, he always behaved like an equal and a very, very staunch supporter. Even at the India Rivers programs, I mean, during the the first program, he encouraged us to participate. He pushed us literally to participate in whatever way we can. And whenever we made a request, we wanted to put up a photo exhibition on the rivers of Himachal in the first India Rivers Week, and he just immediately would say yes. And even if it was not possible, he would try to work it out with the organizers, etc. to make it happen. So, thank you so much for this opportunity. And मैं बस कहना चाहूंगी कि हमें मतलब हमारे पास कोई और चारा नहीं है। जो काम मनोज जी ने शुरू किया और जिस मुहिम में हम सब साथ में जुड़े थे, उसमें और शिद्दत से हमें जुड़ना होगा। और जो खाली जगह है उन्होंने छोड़ी है, शायद वो भर नहीं पाएगी इतनी आसानी से, लेकिन हम लोगों को पूरी कोशिश करनी होगी कि हम we pass on the baton in the same spirit that he did.
Yeah. Thanks, Manshi.
Hello.
Professor Dinesh Marotia ji. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. In fact, मनोज भाई से मेरा रिश्ता जब वो छत्तीसगढ़ में IAS ऑफिसर थे, तब से इंटरेक्शन मेरा उनसे होता रहा है। लेकिन इम्पोर्टेंट चीज ये है जो आपने अभी मेंशन की थी डॉक्टर जॉय ने, कि जब हम केन बेतवा पर स्टडी कर रहे थे तो काफी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव जब हमने अपनी रिपोर्ट मनोज जी से शेयर की और वो खजुराहो भी आए थे, तो उसको लेके उन्होंने बहुत ही सीरियस एफर्ट किए, जिसमें कि डॉक्टर जॉय ने भी जैसा बतलाया है कि उन्होंने EPW में भी एक ओपन लेटर प्राइम मिनिस्टर को लिखा। उसके साथ साथ पिछले 10-12 साल में जितने भी हमने इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं, चाहे वो इकोसिस्टम सर्विसेज ऑफ गंगा का हो, चाहे बुंदेलखंड में क्लाइमेट चेंज और उसकी क्राइसिस हो, और लेक नैनीताल के इशू हो या दूसरी लेक्स के हों। लेकिन एक सरप्राइजिंग चीज जो मैं आप सबसे शेयर करना चाहता हूं, जब मैंने उनसे कहा कि डॉक्टर ब्रिज गोपाल तो नहीं रहे, क्या आप मेरी आने वाली बुक जो वेटलैंड गवर्नेंस पे है उसको आप मनोज जी कुछ चैप्टर पढ़ लेंगे? तो देन ही सेड, अरे भाई वो तो ब्रिज गोपाल जी का तो मैं बहुत पुअर सब्स्टिट्यूट है, लेकिन आप जिद कर रहे हैं तो मैं आपके चैप्टर पढ़ लूंगा। और जैसा कि बहुत सारे मित्रों ने कहा, यानी वो टॉप प्रायोरिटी पे सारे काम छोड़ने के बाद मेरे 2 चैप्टर उन्होंने पूरी 2 दिन के अंदर मुझे अपना इनपुट दिया। एंड आई एम एक्सट्रीमली ग्रेटफुल। मेरे पास उनके लिए बहुत सारी यादें जुड़ी हुई हैं। जब भी रायपुर आते थे तो हम लोग काफी घंटों चर्चा करते थे। और मैं यही कहूँगा, जैसा सब लोगों ने कहा है और जाय भाई ने भी कहा है, कि जो उनके थॉट्स हैं, अगर हम मनोज जी को सही श्रद्धांजलि यही होगी कि हम उनकी जो वो गांव कनेक्शन वगैरह में भी जो उन्होंने बहुत बढ़िया आर्टिकल ईस्टर्न घाट वगैरह के लिए लिखे हैं, तो उन सब का एक जगह ले आए, जैसे कि उनकी सिस्टर ने भी कहा, और वही मेरे ख्याल में सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि होगी। आपने मुझे मौका दिया, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत ही शुक्रगुजार हूँ। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thanks, Professor. In fact, I would like to share that in the interior forum also there is a discussion about this. So I think Siddharth would be taking the lead in creating a page where all his works can be brought together. And I think his daughter Anjani is also quite, I mean, the whole family, all of us together, we can create that. And I think that would be done. And we should do it, yeah. Anybody else would like to share very quickly their thoughts or feelings? Or you can just raise your hand or just and speak, unmute and speak.
Not been able to connect with Bhavreen Kandhari ma'am. She was here.
I don't know who, Dr. Arjun Kumar, you like to suggest somebody to speak, or nobody seems to be.
You can also summarize or have your point of view in the whole process.
Dr. Arjun, I don't think this is something which one can summarize, because I think it was so beautiful to listen to everybody, sharing both their feelings as well as their association and the type of different dimensions of Manoj's work. For me, it was extremely rewarding to listen and also very inspiring. So I think that's the message I think we all should take from here. And also, I think most of us also spoke, saying that some of his unfinished tasks on various fronts, and how do we take it that forward? And also, whatever he stood for, how do we take that forward as a legacy? This is a collective responsibility. I think that is the main task which is remaining. I'm sure some of the people around here, especially from India River Forum, would take that lead, and we also need to support that effort. And maybe in the next couple of months, we will be able to come up with a very concrete action plan on that. I just want to share one aspect of Manoj, which I think nobody spoke here. Manoj, though he comes across very serious and very, a lot of people say we are not seen Manoj is smiling openly and things, though he's very calm, quiet and other things. But I have seen witness to participate in some of his fun moments too. This is specifically related to the meetings of the steering committee of the Water Conference Forum. Before the COVID, we used to meet quite often. And I think at least twice a year, we used to meet as a steering. We are about 13, 14 of us in that meeting. So after the day long, very heavy discussions and things, the evenings used to be much more fun evenings. There used to be little spirits going around. I should have said that Manoj was a teetotaler completely, but he was not moralistic that his friends, have a drink or two. But we also had lots of singers in our group. Somebody mentioned Dr. Lata from Kerala, who was a steering committee member. She's not with us now. She was an extremely gifted singer. We have Partha Das from Guwahati. He sings extremely well. We have Eklabe Prasad. He sings well. We have Sripad Dharmadhikaria. There are a whole lot of singers in the group. So we used to spend at least about 3 hours every evening just singing. And Manoj used to thoroughly enjoy this. And the last 2-3 years, one of the things during the COVID, he used to tell me, after, time and again, Joy, let's have a meeting. Let's have a gathering. I'm missing the evenings we used to have. Thomas, so we also thought of organizing an online, singing session sometime, but that never took place. So there was a very different side to Manoj, which I've seen, which is a fun, loving, deeply in love with music, especially the old Hindi songs. He used to this one, so we'll miss all that. So I think probably I don't have any concluding remarks as such, because this is not a session we can conclude. I would say this is just a beginning of taking this legacy forward collectively. And I'm sure IMPRI would also put together the recording of this today's session is very rich, insights people brought in. We should not lose that. And I think that we can also circulate widely once the recording is ready and things. So I take this opportunity to thank all my fellow panelists, and especially the family members, Shraddha to be here, Anjani I could see among the participants, and any other relatives of Manoj who could join, and also the entire team of IMPRI for putting this together. It was very lovely, well organized. So thanks a ton. Yeah. Back to Arjun. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joy sir, and all the panelists. We are so grateful to you so that we are able to do this and remember Manojji. Now for formal vote of thanks, I invite Nana.
As we come to the end of today's discussion, I, Naina Sharma, a researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks. On behalf of the IMPRI Center for Environment, Climate Change and Sustainable Development, CECCSD, I would like to thank all of you for attending today's deliberation, a condolence meeting in memoriam remembering Shri Manoj Misra ji, 1954 to 2023. Convener, Yamuna Jiye Abhiyaan, Campaign for a Living Yamuna River, a civil society consortium, and former Indian Forest Service officer. His remarkable work has served as a profound source of inspiration, fueling our aspirations and shaping our endeavors. we are grateful to our chair, Mr. K.J. Joyji, our esteemed panelists, Ms. Mallika Bhanot, Ms. NIVEDITA KHANDEKAR, Mr. V.R. Raman, Mr. Ranjan Panda, Mr. Leo F. Saldanha, Mr. Gopal Krishna, Mr. Lokendra Thakkar, Ms. Bhavreen Kandhari, Mr. Suresh Babu SV, Mr. Himanshu Thakkar, Mr. Siddharth Agarwal, Ms. Ipsita Pati, and Ms. Shraddha Bakshi for taking part in the discussion and enlightening us. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We have released the Environment and Public Policy lecture by Shri Manoj Misra sir, along with the book Voice of Yamuna, Manoj Misra, Tribute to an Environment Hero, prepared as an initiative of IMPRI Books. Kindly refer to the chat box for the same. We are grateful if you are watching us later on our YouTube channel or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. You may also find more discussions and thematic events under the IMPRI Web Policy Talk series. We hope you continue to join in future to our IMPRI #Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks.
Dinesh.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Please
you very
let us
much.
know if we can be of any help for the forthcoming book you're planning.
Yeah.
You can also.
Yes. So we will connect with you, Dr. Arjun, on that.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks. Nice day. Yeah. Nice.